Imagine someone hands you a bank account on the exact day you were born. But when you look at the balance, it's not holding dollars or cents. It's holding a finite, pre-calculated number of coins.
Right. And you can't add to it.
Exactly. Every single time your chest rises and falls, you spend one of those coins.
Yeah.
You can't make deposits. You can only make withdrawals.
It completely flips how we view our time here. I mean, we usually think of aging as this unpredictable mystery, right? Like a roll of the genetic dice or just the inevitable wear and tear of living. But the framework we're looking at today approaches lifespan as strict, unyielding mathematics.
Welcome to this custom-tailored deep dive, created just for you. Today we are exploring a profoundly fascinating lecture on the ancient Siddha practice of Kayakalpa yoga.
And our mission here is really to decode this ancient biological blueprint. We want to uncover how these mystics believed we could, literally reprogram our genetics, extend our lifespans, and actually conquer inherited diseases.
And the wild part about all this, they heavily blended ancient Tamil and Vedic wisdom with concepts that modern biological science is, like, only just now mapping out in top-tier research labs.
It really is wild. So to set the stage for you, we have to look at that word itself, Kayakalpa. It translates to making the physical body, which is the kaya, strong and immortal, the kalpa.
Which sounds like a myth, right?
Yeah, exactly. Plenty of ancient traditions have their own mythological stories of immortality potions or, magical elixirs. But this text outlines a profound physical and meditative practice. It's not a magic potion.
Right.
This specific knowledge was mapped out by a lineage of 18 Siddhars. These were ancient mystics who essentially reverse-engineered human biology.
And they didn't do it with microscopes or functional MRIs.
Yeah.
The literature explains that they mastered the ability to radically reduce their brainwave frequencies.
Which is key here.
Right. So if our normal waking state is, a high-frequency beta wave where we're constantly scanning our environment and reacting to stress, these Siddhars reportedly dropped their brain frequencies down to the deepest delta states and even beyond, while remaining entirely conscious.
Wow.
Yeah. By quieting the mind to that extreme degree, they claim to connect with cosmic energy and literally feel the microscopic cellular actions of their own bodies.
Which brings a whole new layer of credibility when you look at how this knowledge transitioned into the modern era. I mean, it didn't just stay lost in antiquity.
Right. It survived.
Yeah, it was brought forward by a figure recognized as the 19th Siddhar, Vethathiri Maharahi. He treated these ancient texts as a biological hypothesis, and he made himself the primary test subject. He practiced this specific yoga on himself for 40 years.
And his biological data is just fascinating. Despite carrying a severe genetic predisposition and an astrological prediction that his system would literally fail at age 59, he lived to be 96.
That staggering data point shifts the entire conversation from theoretical philosophy to applied biology. I mean, he managed to bypass a genetic expiration date.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if we want to understand how to bypass our own genetic expiration dates, we first have to understand the fundamental building blocks of the body, or at least how this ancient text categorizes them.
Right, so to do that, we have to grasp the mind-boggling scale of the human cellular economy. The material breaks it down into a massive scale. The human body contains roughly 60 billion or 6,000 core cells.
60 billion? That's a lot of cells.
It's massive. But they operate under two completely different sets of biological rules. So 45 billion of those are physical body cells. These are the workers.
Okay.
They are constantly regenerating. They take the raw materials of your environment, like the food you eat, the water you drink, the air you breathe, ambient heat, and even the Earth's magnetic energy, and they use that raw material to undergo continuous cellular division and rebuild themselves.
But the remaining 15 billion cells operate on a completely different paradigm, right?
Exactly. Those are the brain cells, and according to this tradition, those brain cells do not regenerate once they fall away.
So once they're gone, they're gone.
Yep. They require a much higher grade biological fuel to maintain their electrical and conscious functions. When that fuel runs low and they die off, they are gone forever.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, this framework points to that specific non-regenerative loss as the fundamental mechanical reason why memory loss, neurological degradation, and cognitive decline hit us as we age. We are literally depleting our finite cognitive hardware.
Which brings us back to that bank account I mentioned at the start.
Right.
The ancient calculation for the human lifespan isn't just some philosophical guess. It's a hyper-specific mathematical formula based on respiratory mechanics.
That's fascinating.
According to this Siddhar knowledge, a human being is fundamentally designed to live exactly 120 years. And that number is dictated by a cosmic birth certificate of breaths.
The math here is incredibly precise.
Yeah, walk us through it.
So they calculated that at an optimal resting respiratory rate of 15 breaths a minute, that equals 900 breaths an hour.
Okay, carrying the one.
Multiply that out and you get 21,600 breaths a day. So to reach a 120-year lifespan without breaking down, you are allotted precisely 946,080,000 breaths.
946 million breath coins in your pre-funded account. The universe gives you that exact budget.
Right.
But looking at this critically, if our lifespan is dictated by this breath count, and our 45 billion physical cells are constantly regenerating, what is the actual fuel?
Right, what's running the machine?
Exactly. We take in food and water, sure. But what is the high-grade energetic mechanism that keeps those non-regenerating brain cells alive so we can even spend those breaths?
Well, the text introduces a core biological concept to answer that called the Jiva Vithu Kuzambu, which translates to the sex vital fluid. This is described as the ultimate refinement of everything you consume. Digesting food isn't just about breaking down carbohydrates into like quick glucose for your morning meeting. It is a highly complex 7-stage alchemy that takes exactly 14 days to complete.
I want to dig into the mechanics of that because 14 days just to process a single meal sounds incredibly inefficient to our modern understanding of digestion.
It seems inefficient until you look at what the body is actually trying to achieve. It's not just extracting calories, it is transmuting gross matter into subtle energetic matter.
Right.
So when you eat, the digestifier first turns the food into a base nutrient juice or chyle. Over the next days, that essence is biologically refined into blood.
Yep.
The blood then synthesizes into muscle tissue. The byproduct of muscle creation refines into fat. The fat refines into bone, the bone refines into bone marrow. And finally, on the 14th day, the absolute purest, ultra-condensed, energetic essence of that entire cascading process forms just one single drop of this vital fluid.
That cascade makes a lot of sense when you look at the text's central analogy. They compare this to the process of clarifying milk.
Oh, that's a great way to picture it.
Yeah. When you process milk, you can churn it into curd. Process the curd further, you get buttermilk. Churn that, and you extract butter.
Right.
And if you slowly heat and refine that butter to its absolute purest state, removing all the impurities and water content, you get ghee. Ghee is incredibly valuable because, if stored properly, it theoretically never expires.
It lasts forever.
Exactly. So the body is essentially taking ordinary, rapidly decaying food and churning it through 7 biological stages until it produces a highly potent, nearly immortal life fluid.
The statistics provided about the potency of this fluid really highlight why it's considered the ultimate battery of the body. According to their calculations, just one single drop of this vital fluid contains the equivalent nutrient density of 88 drops of blood.
Wow.
Or, even more surprisingly, the nutritional power of 64 apples.
Okay, wait, 64 apples for one single drop. That sounds almost mythological.
I know, it really does.
I mean, biologically speaking, we know a single drop of human fluid doesn't hold the caloric value or the macronutrient weight of a bushel of fruit. We must be talking about a completely different kind of density here. Are they talking about epigenetic density?
That is the perfect way to frame it, yes. It is not about caloric density. It is about generative biological power.
Right.
This fluid is the blueprint that tells the cells how to organize and repair themselves. It is the architectural software of the body.
That makes so much more sense.
Yeah. Historically, in ancient camel medical traditions, doctors wouldn't just check a pulse or, pupil dilation to confirm a patient had died.
What would they check?
They would check if this vital fluid had involuntarily exited the body. They had a highly specific medical phrase for this moment of terminal system failure. It was sathavitan, which literally translates to the essence has left.
The linguistic evolution of that phrase is fascinating. Over the centuries, sathavitan morphed into the modern Tamil phrase for death, sathavitan.
Right, it became the word itself.
Yeah. The fact that their everyday word for death evolved directly from the concept of losing this specific fluid proves how deeply this biological mechanic was embedded in their culture.
Yeah.
Death was literally defined as the departure of this structural essence.
So, if this fluid is depleted unnecessarily, like if it's wasted or burned through by high stress without waiting the 14 days required to replenish that single drop, The entire physical system is forced into a crisis.
Because it still needs that fuel.
Exactly. The brain cells still need that high-grade fuel to function, so the body has to draw on its deepest, unreplenishable vital reserves.
Wow.
This cannibalization of our own vital reserves is the mechanism that directly leads to accelerated cellular degradation, systemic illness, and rapid aging.
Taking that a step further, if this vital fluid is the ultimate battery and the architectural software of the body, what exactly is written into that software? Like, why is it so irreplaceable?
Right.
And this leads us to what is easily the most mind-bending revelation of this entire analysis.
Yep, buckle up for this one. The fluid isn't just chemical fuel, it is an incredibly dense information storage system.
Okay.
The texts explain this through the mathematics of your ancestry. You, listening to this right now, might think of yourself as person number 1 in your life story, but biologically, you are the 7th generation of your family tree.
Which means we are carrying a massive crowd inside us. If you trace it back 6 generations, you have 2 parents, 4 grandparents, 8 great-grandparents. That comes out to 126 distinct people standing directly behind you in your genetic line.
And this ties back to the lifespan calculation of 120 years. The ancient framework calculates that each of those 6 previous generations passes down 20 years of specific genetic and karmic records to you.
Oh, wow.
So 6 generations multiplied by 20 years perfectly equals your 120-year potential lifespan.
That math is just wild.
It really is. Every single physical trait, every piece of unresolved psychological trauma, every generational disease marker, and every behavioral tendency from those 126 people is stored inside your DNA, and the carrier of that DNA is the vital fluid.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because we can step out of ancient mysticism and look straight into modern laboratories.
Yes, let's talk about the science.
In December of 2017, a wave of modern epigenetic reports was officially released, confirming that microscopic sperms and seminal fluid act as the primary biological carriers of environmental information and generational trauma records.
It's incredible how that aligns.
We now know that if a grandfather experienced severe famine or profound stress, that trauma literally alters the RNA fragments in his seminal fluid, passing a biological memory of that stress down to his grandchildren.
Wow.
Modern science is officially mapping the exact generational inheritance that the Vedic sciences claimed thousands of years ago.
And it is entirely changing modern diagnostic medicine. I mean, by the year 2026, standard medical history forms at the doctor's office aren't just asking about your parents or your grandparents.
Right.
They are actively mapping your aunts and uncles, trying to trace the exact web of these familial links because they realize how intensely our current health is dictated by that specific network of 126 ancestors.
We have to look at how that ledger is actually compiled during conception, though. The ancient material provides a deeply specific ratio for how those records are split.
Right, the 84 primary records.
Exactly. Of the 84 primary genetic records you inherit when you are conceived, 70 come from the father's side and 14 come from the mother's side.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about the mechanism behind that mother's 14, because it sounds like they are highly volatile.
They are incredibly dynamic. So while the father passes down the long-term archival data of the lineage, the mother's 14 records are dictated by her immediate real-time biological and emotional environment.
Meaning her state right at that moment.
Exactly. Those 14 records are actively shaped by the exact biochemical state of the mother up until the very moment of conception.
That's intense.
The foods she consumed, her baseline cortisol and stress levels, her emotional state, if her system was highly acidic or she was carrying massive anxiety, that biochemical signature immediately becomes the foundational operating system handed to the child.
So what does this actually mean for our daily lives? If we are walking around carrying the compounded genetic baggage, the diseases, and the unresolved stress of 126 people, are we just ticking time bombs?
Right.
Are we completely at the mercy of whatever biological debt our ancestors racked up?
Well, the ancient texts have a very structured explanation for this. They believed that the specific timing of conception dictated the biological and karmic load a human system could handle.
Okay, how so?
They observed that embryos formed on day 4 or day 7 of a cycle usually miscarry. The mechanical reason they give is that these early conceptions lack the necessary generational records to sustain a human life.
They essentially lack the required software to boot up the physical hardware.
Precisely that. Normal human beings, carrying the standard ledger of those 126 ancestors, are formed on day 14.
Okay.
But the text explores a biological anomaly conceptions occurring on day 17. These result in what they call Mahans, or highly enlightened saints, using Swami Vivekananda as a prime example.
I want to understand the mechanism of that anomaly. Why does a day 17 conception create a Mahan?
The framework suggests that by day 17, the cellular environment is incredibly dense with cosmic and karmic data. These individuals are born with a massively overloaded system.
Like too much data for one person.
Right. They don't just process the records of their own family lineage. Their biological hardware is tuned to a frequency that absorbs the suffering and unresolved data of humanity at large.
Wow.
Because of that intense, continuous biological and spiritual burden, their physical systems burn out rapidly. They often die suddenly the moment their specific life's purpose or energetic contribution is complete.
But for the vast majority of us,
Yep.
the day 14 folks, the text insists that our destiny can absolutely be rewritten.
Thank goodness.
Yeah. We are not trapped by the inherited ledger. And to prove this, they present a genuinely chilling medical case study about a cursed family.
Oh, the story is intense. It is a textbook example of an epigenetic trigger. So, in this specific family line, there had been 7 consecutive deaths.
Okay.
All of them were men. Every single one of them died at exactly 42 years old. And most shockingly, all of them died of a massive heart attack between 6:30 and 7:30 in the evening.
Oh my God.
It was a highly specific genetic alarm clock that went off for 7 straight generations.
It is terrifying to imagine living with that knowledge. You're the 8th man in line, just watching the calendar tick closer to your 32nd birthday, knowing there is a vascular time bomb coded into your chest.
Exactly. But knowing his genetic destiny, the 8th man was warned and he took radical action. At age 31, he began practicing Kayakalpa yoga rigorously. Every single day, he focused on the breathing techniques, transmuting his food properly, and strictly protecting his vital energy to rebuild his cellular architecture.
And here is the incredible part of the biological mechanics. The universe doesn't just wave a magic wand and delete the debt.
Right.
The epigenetic alarm clock still rang. When he turned 42, right at 7 p.m., the gene expression activated, causing a severe vascular event. He did suffer a heart attack.
But he survived it.
Yes, because his body was intensely fortified, because his vital fluid was pure and his cellular reserves were deep. It manifested as a mild attack. His vascular system had the elasticity to absorb the shock.
That is just incredible.
He survived the event, the ancestral debt was cleared from the ledger, and the medical follow-ups show he is now 52 years old and perfectly healthy.
This forces us to ask, how does physical stretching, deep breathing, and meditation actually stop a genetically programmed heart attack? If we connect this to the bigger picture, the material brilliantly connects this ancient practice back to modern cellular biology, specifically to the science of telomeres.
Let's visualize telomeres for a second because they are crucial to understanding this.
Yeah.
If your DNA is a fragile, ancient manuscript containing all your generational records, the telomere is the heavy, climate-controlled glass case protecting it. They sit at the very end of your chromosomes.
That architectural scaffolding analogy is perfect. Every time your physical cells divide to regenerate, those protective telomeres get a little bit shorter.
The glass case wears down.
Exactly. When they get too short, the cell can no longer divide safely, and it triggers apoptosis, or cellular death.
Which is aging.
Right. That breakdown is what we physically experience as aging. But research reveals that continuously doing these specific deep breathing yogic practices actually upregulates an enzyme called telomerase. Over 9 years of practice, this process literally grows the telomeres by 1 millimeter.
1 millimeter doesn't sound like a massive defense system until you realize we are talking about the microscopic universe of DNA.
Right. On a cellular level, 1 millimeter of telomere regeneration is profound. It translates to adding 10 extra years of optimal function to a human lifespan.
Wow.
It provides the cellular armor needed to withstand a genetic trigger, like a heart attack, without massive tissue death. It is undeniable biological proof that we are not entirely subject to our genetic fate.
We actually have some control.
Yeah, we have the internal technology to purify the vital fluid, physically alter our chromosomes, and literally clean the negative epigenetic markers out of our DNA.
So let's bring this all together. We've gone on a massive biological journey today. We started by looking at our 60 billion cells and the realization that our 15 billion brain cells demand a specific, ultra-potent energy because they don't regenerate.
Right.
We explored the 14-day metabolic alchemy required to transmute our food to just one drop of the vital fluid that powers our cognitive and cellular architecture.
The ghee of the body.
Exactly. We broke down the mathematical reality that you were walking around with 126 ancestors perfectly coded into your epigenetic ledger. And finally, we saw the awe-inspiring proof that continuous deliberate practice can literally lengthen your telomeres, absorbing the shock of inherited trauma and rewriting your destiny.
The knowledge here is incredibly empowering because whether you are prepping for a stressful meeting, managing a chronic condition, or just trying to navigate modern life, understanding that your body is a generational ledger totally changes your behavior.
It really does.
It makes you realize that your energy is precious, not infinite. Every choice you make to preserve your vital fluid rather than burn it on unnecessary stress is a choice to literally reprogram your biological future.
And that leaves us with one final mind-expanding thought for you to take with you today. Think back to that bank account we opened the show with.
The breath coins.
Yeah, that absolute budget of 946 million breaths. If our lifespan is strictly budgeted by that number, consider the mechanics of how we live today. Modern stress, anxiety, doom scrolling, rushing through traffic, it all spikes our cortisol and causes us to take short, rapid, panicked
You're
breaths.
spending the coins too fast.
Exactly. If every breath is a finite coin, are we literally fast-forwarding our own genetic clocks every time we let anxiety take over? If that's true, could simply sitting down, closing your eyes, and consciously slowing down your breathing be the most powerful, most accessible immortality hack of all? Something to think about the next time you take a breath.